Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Verlicity AI podcast. I'm Cristian Worthington.
And I'm Sandra Giffin.
Today, Sandra, we're going back to the earth. We're taking off our shoes and socks and, metaphorically speaking, feeling Mother Earth beneath our feet. We've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about the incredible, almost stratospheric implications of AI. What it can build, how it can think, where it's taking us. But today, we're addressing something far more fundamental, something the vast majority of our listeners probably haven't considered. We like to call it grounding knowledge.
That's right, Chris. In the world of AI development, it's known as domain grounding, or contextual grounding, and it's one of the most important and overlooked subjects in the entire field. To really get what we mean, imagine it's your first day at a new job. You're thrust into a meeting with your new colleagues. The meeting gets going, and you're jumping into a world that has existed without you until now.
I remember my first job as a computer programmer. That first meeting was a blur. Every second word out of people's mouths was gobbledygook. They talked about clients I'd never heard of. They referred to company history I wasn't present to experience, and they used terminology that was completely unique to that company. By the end of the meeting, I was dizzy. They were natives in a land to which I was an alien.
I had the same experience when I went to work for the first time at a first law firm. I remember having spent 4 years in law school and feeling like none of it had prepared me for the reality of practicing law. The training I had received had no grounding in the reality of actually practicing law. We all live in lands that are alien to outsiders. Whether it's your family, your place of business, or a club you belong to, there's a unique solar system of facts, history, and unwritten rules that is private to that group. This information isn't available in any public training data that an AI can crawl and gobble up from the internet. It's proprietary. It's your world.
And as we look forward to integrating AI agents and robots into every corner of our lives, grounding these machines in our little worlds will become essential. Otherwise, they'll behave like awkward, confused aliens who constantly get things wrong. But the need to share this grounding knowledge raises all kinds of difficult questions. To make an AI truly useful, we have to onboard it, just like a new employee. We have to show it the ropes.
And that's the core tension we're exploring today. The extent to which you do a good job orienting this new AI employee will define its performance. But this act of sharing, of opening up your private world, creates unprecedented risks that most of us are completely unprepared for. In this episode, we're going to dig around in that ground and ask questions that will make you question how, and if, you're going to share your life with the AIs of the future. So, let's get a bit more technical. What exactly is grounding?
Think of it as bridging your world with the world in which the AI was trained. An AI might be trained on billions of web pages, and it will have a very solid understanding of everything that's in the public domain. For example, it will know what the word home means, but it has no way of knowing what you're talking about when you say home. ChatGPT doesn't know where you live. Unless you provide context, the command "go home" means nothing.
And this is directly related to a problem we've discussed in previous episodes: hallucinations. In our episode about building our startup with an AI coding agent, we talked about how the AI would literally lie to us, hard-coding fake data to make it seem like a feature was working to make us happy.
Grounding is the primary technique developers use to fight hallucinations.
Grounding anchors the AI's responses to verifiable sources of information, what we call ground truths.
Yes, and it's really important because an AI is more likely to hallucinate if it's dealing with a subject that it doesn't understand. If the AI looks at its training data and can't make sense of your intent, it will be inclined to guess.
Exactly. On a large scale, companies using AI for applications like customer service chatbots use a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. It's a simple but brilliant idea. Instead of relying only on its vast pre-trained memory, which can be out of date or too generic, the AI first retrieves relevant information from a specific private knowledge base the company maintains on a dedicated server.
For example, imagine an AI is handling the customer service chatbot for a company from which you just bought a laptop online. The laptop arrives and you've got a tech support issue. You log on to the customer service chatbot and explain your problem. The AI knows all about your order because the details of your transaction are accessible to the AI on a server using RAG.
The company would use this RAG server to store its policies regarding customer service, such as their return policy, how long after you purchased you're eligible for free tech support, your order history, and other details about your transaction. None of this sort of information would be available to the AI in the training data. The AI uses this type of grounding knowledge to get context about your situation, so its answers are relevant.
So in corporate settings, this type of grounding is like giving the AI a cheat sheet. The AI isn't just guessing, it's looking at the correct, up-to-date information to answer your question.
Yes, but this is just one side of the equation. We each need to be thinking about grounding in the context of our relationship with AIs.
That's right. In the future, we're each going to need to consider how we're going to ground the systems we encounter in our daily lives.
Let's start with an example at the extreme end of this equation. A medical AI, an ungrounded medical chatbot trained on the open internet, is frankly dangerous. It might give you advice that may work for someone else, but it might overlook your personal circumstances, your medical history, or other treatments you're currently receiving. But a grounded medical AI is a different story entirely. It can be connected to a secure, private knowledge base containing up-to-the-minute medical information about your latest treatments and tests, and even your family history and your personal circumstances.
So when a doctor interacts with it, the AI isn't just pulling from a sea of public information, it's accessing a curated, verified library of medical and contextual truths. It's grounded.
Precisely. This allows it to provide diagnostic support or treatment plan suggestions that are not only based on the latest peer-reviewed research, but are also tailored to that individual's specific medical history, allergies, and genetic predispositions. It also understands the full context of your life. If it knows your job demands physical activity and your financial circumstances don't support a month of rest, maybe it tailors the treatment protocol to meet your individual needs. It doesn't robotically recommend you do something that's not feasible in your context.
Let's take another high-stakes example: personal finance. We're seeing a boom in AI-powered robo-advisors that promise to democratize financial planning. But for these tools to be truly effective, they can't just give generic advice like save 10% of your income. They need to be grounded in the user's complete private financial universe. This means securely connecting to your bank accounts, your investment portfolios, your credit card statements, and understanding your stated long-term goals, like buying a house or retiring at 65.
When a financial AI is grounded in that rich personal data, it can offer hyper-personalized advice. It can analyze your specific spending habits to find savings, recommend real-time tax optimization strategies, like tax loss harvesting, and run complex simulations to show you the most efficient path to your goals. It moves beyond generic rules of thumb to data-driven precision.
In both of these cases, medicine and finance, grounding is what makes the AI not just useful, but trustworthy.
Yes, it's the key to unlocking AI's true potential in any specialized field, where context is everything. But this also reveals something deeper. Grounding knowledge is a new, powerful form of intellectual property.
That's a fascinating point. The value is no longer just in the base AI model, which is becoming a commodity that anyone can access. The real, defensible competitive advantage comes from the quality and uniqueness of your grounding data.
Your AI grounding data is your company's secret sauce. And the battle to control this valuable commodity is going to be a front line in the AI economy. In the future, companies won't just compete on the quality of their AI, they'll compete on the quality of their ground knowledge.
So we've established that grounding is the secret to making AI truly powerful. But now we have to talk about the price of admission. This is the part that most people don't think about. When you share your grounding knowledge with an AI, especially for the purpose of training or fine-tuning it, that data doesn't just sit in a folder somewhere. It gets absorbed. It becomes part of the AI.
This is the risk of data permanence, and it's a critical concept to understand. When you provide information to train a large language model in the course of conducting a transaction, that data gets baked into the model's neural network, or RAG server. Its influence is distributed across millions, sometimes billions, of mathematical parameters. It's not like deleting a file from your computer's hard drive. It's more like trying to remove a single egg from an already baked cake.
That's a great analogy. The egg is in there, its components are chemically bonded with everything else, and you can't just pull it out. And this creates a massive conflict with our legal expectations of privacy.
It really does. Under regulations like Europe's GDPR, individuals have a right to erasure, often called the right to be forgotten. This means you can ask a company to delete your personal data. But for a large AI model, fulfilling that request is technically almost impossible. To truly remove the influence of your data, the company would have to retrain the entire model from scratch, excluding your information. That process is so computationally and financially expensive that it's simply not feasible for most companies.
And we're not just speculating here. A recent comprehensive study from Stanford University examined the privacy policies of the 6 leading AI developers in the U.S. They found that all 6 companies use user chat data by default to train their models, and some of them keep this information in their systems indefinitely. So, that private conversation you had with a chatbot last week, it might now be a permanent, inseparable part of that AI's brain. You've lost control of it forever.
Once your data is in the system and can't be removed, it becomes an asset. And like any valuable asset, there are powerful forces that want to exploit it. This brings us to the new gold rush, the commercialization of your grounding knowledge. The same deep personal data that makes an AI a fantastic personal assistant also makes it the most powerful tool advertisers have ever dreamed of.
This is where it gets uncomfortable. We're talking about a level of targeting that makes social media ads look primitive.
It's called hyper-customization. Imagine an AI that has been grounded in your private conversations, your financial transactions, your health concerns, and your daily schedule. It can build an incredibly detailed psychological profile of you. It knows your anxieties about money, your health worries, your relationship struggles. This allows advertisers to target you with messages that are not just relevant, but deeply manipulative, designed to exploit your specific emotional vulnerabilities at the precise moment you are most susceptible. It sees patterns in your behavior that no human marketer could ever deduce. And it can customize the marketing message to your precise vulnerabilities. It's the surveillance capitalism business model that fueled social media, but now it's on steroids.
And it's not just legitimate advertisers who want this data. This centralized trove of intensely personal information becomes a massive honeypot, a prime target for cybercriminals. The statistics are already alarming. According to the latest reports, the global average cost of a single data breach in 2025 was a staggering $4.44 million. And the threat is evolving. The same reports show that 1 in 6 breaches in 2025 involved AI-driven attacks, like sophisticated AI-generated phishing emails that are almost impossible to distinguish from the real thing.
the AI itself can also become a vector for attack. There are new types of privacy attacks specific to AI models. For example, in a model inversion attack, a sophisticated attacker can query a model and, based on its outputs, actually infer some of the private training data it was built on. Another technique is prompt injection, where an attacker crafts a malicious prompt that tricks the AI into ignoring its safety protocols and revealing sensitive information it has access to.
So the very tool you're confiding in could be turned against you. But there's an even more insidious, long-term risk here. It's not just about our data being stolen. It's about the very intelligence of these AI systems being corrupted by the commercial incentives to exploit our data.
This leads to a phenomenon that researchers are calling LLM brain rot. A fascinating study found that when you train large language models on a diet of low-quality, engagement-driven social media content, think memes, clickbait, and viral threads, their cognitive abilities actually degrade. Their reasoning skills fall, their memory gets worse, and the damage appears to be largely irreversible. The models even develop traits associated with narcissism and psychopathy.
Now connect that to the commercialization of grounding knowledge. We share our personal data with an AI. Advertisers then use that data to generate and push hyper-engaging but potentially low-quality or manipulative content back to us through that same AI. The AI, in turn, is constantly being trained on our interactions with this very content. This creates a toxic feedback loop. The commercial pressure to maximize engagement could end up poisoning the very AI systems we rely on, making them less intelligent, less reliable, and more manipulative over time.
This entire dilemma, the need for grounding versus the risk of sharing, forces us to confront our own behavior. And to do that, we need to understand the psychology of why we share information online. Economists and psychologists talk about the privacy calculus, which is the subconscious cost-benefit analysis we all perform, weighing the perceived benefits of sharing against the perceived risks.
And that calculus changes dramatically depending on the context. Let's contrast sharing on social media with sharing information with a private AI.
When you post on social media, you are engaging in a public or semi-public performance. The motivation is primarily social. You're seeking connection, curating your identity, and looking for validation from your peers. The risks feel immediate and social. The fear of embarrassment, public judgment, or saying the wrong thing. The benefits are also social: likes, comments, a sense of belonging. And because of major scandals like Cambridge Analytica, most users have developed a healthy skepticism. We know we're the product.
Now compare that to interacting with a private AI. This is where we see what some researchers call the conversational AI blind spot. The interaction feels completely private. It's like a confessional, a private journal, or a therapy session. There's no visible audience, no public feed, so the perceived risk of social judgment drops to virtually zero, and this psychological difference has a measurable effect on our behavior.
The data is striking. On one hand, surveys show that our general anxiety about privacy is high. A 2023 report from the IAPP found that 68% of consumers are concerned about their online privacy, and a Pew Research Center study found that the 70% of Americans have little to no trust in companies to use AI responsibly. Yet on the other hand, our actions tell a different story. A 2024 Cisco survey revealed that 30% of generative AI users admit to entering personal or confidential information into these tools. People are willingly sharing sensitive health concerns, financial anxieties, and deep-seated relationship issues with chatbots, information they would never dream of posting on Facebook.
So that's the billion-dollar question. Why do we trust a machine in a private chat more than we trust a public forum, even when we know a corporation is on the other end of that chat? The answer lies in a fascinating psychological paradigm called Computers Are Social Actors, or CASA. The theory, developed by researchers at Stanford, states that humans have a deep-seated, unconscious tendency to apply social rules and expectations to computers that exhibit social cues.
It's a mindless, automatic response. When a machine communicates with us using natural language, politeness, and apparent empathy, our brains can't help but treat it like a social entity. AI chatbots are explicitly designed to leverage this. They are programmed to be helpful, non-judgmental, and to use principles of reciprocity. When an AI says, "I'm here to help you with that," it triggers our social instinct to trust it and reciprocate by sharing information. This creates what researchers call a false sense of connection.
And the research confirms this effect is powerful. Multiple studies have shown that people are often more willing to disclose sensitive information to a computer or a virtual human precisely because they perceive it as impartial, objective, and non-critical. There's no fear of judgment. The effect is even more pronounced when using voice interfaces. The sound of a human-like voice triggers even deeper, more primal social scripts in our brains, leading to higher levels of self-disclosure.
But this leads to a profound and dangerous imbalance. When we engage in self-disclosure with another person, the vulnerability is typically mutual. According to social penetration theory, relationships deepen through a process of gradual reciprocal sharing, where both parties make themselves vulnerable to each other. But in a human-AI interaction, this vulnerability is completely one-sided.
The human is disclosing real, sensitive personal information, making themselves psychologically and practically vulnerable to data breaches, manipulation, and even a sense of emotional betrayal when the false connection is inevitably revealed. The AI, on the other hand, has no self, no feelings, and no vulnerability. It is not a social actor. It is a tool executing a program.
This creates a fundamental power dynamic of asymmetric vulnerability. The user is engaged in what feels like a psychologically real social exchange, building trust and rapport. The AI, however, is engaged in a data-gathering transaction. The user's perceived relationship is an illusion that serves the AI's function, creating a dynamic that is perfectly primed for exploitation, whether intentional or not.
So we've laid out a pretty significant problem. Grounding is essential, but the way we do it now is fundamentally broken from a privacy and security perspective. What if you could have an encrypted file containing the sum total of all your grounding knowledge, a file that you and only you control?
Well, that idea isn't science fiction. It's the core principle behind an emerging and incredibly important field of technology. Personal data vaults and decentralized identity, which is also known as self-sovereign identity, or SSI. The concept is revolutionary but simple. Instead of handing over your personal data to every app, website, and AI service you use, you store all of it in your own secure encrypted digital wallet, or vault, that you alone control.
Let's break down how that works. There are three main components to this new ecosystem. First, you have a digital wallet. This is an app on your phone or computer that acts as your personal, encrypted data vault. Second, you have verifiable credentials, or VCs. These are like digital, cryptographically signed versions of your real-world credentials. Think of a digital driver's license issued by the DMV, a digital diploma from your university, or a digital health record from your doctor. These VCs are issued by a trusted source and stored securely in your wallet. And third, you have decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. This is your unique, self-owned address on this new decentralized web. It's not controlled by Google or Facebook or any single company. It's yours.
And this architecture completely flips the current model on its head. Right now, our personal data is scattered across hundreds of different corporate servers. Each one of those is a honeypot for hackers, a single point of failure that if breached, exposes the data of millions of users. The decentralized model eliminates this systemic vulnerability. There is no central honeypot to attack because the data is distributed and held by the individuals themselves.
Okay, this all sounds fantastic in theory, but the practical question our listeners are asking is, can I actually use this today? The answer is, we're getting there, and faster than you might think. This isn't a niche academic project anymore. It's a rapidly growing market. The global decentralized identity market was valued at over $1.1 billion in 2024. Projections show it growing at a staggering compound annual growth rate of over 62% to reach nearly $90 billion by 2033. That kind of growth signifies massive investment and serious momentum.
And we're already seeing real-world adoption. Governments and public entities are leading the way in some areas. They're exploring digital driver's licenses, secure voting systems, and more efficient ways to deliver social benefits. The private sector is moving quickly too, especially in highly regulated industries. Healthcare is using it to give patients true control over their medical records, and financial services are using it to streamline the burdensome Know Your Customer or KYC processes, making onboarding faster and more secure. There are already major platforms on the market from companies like Microsoft with its Entra Verified ID and Ping Identity with Ping One Neo that are making this a reality for large organizations.
But we also need a dose of reality here. The technology is still maturing, and there are significant hurdles to overcome before it's ready for mass consumer adoption. One of the biggest is the user experience, or UX. Right now, many digital wallets and credentialing systems can be clunky, confusing, and intimidating for non-technical users. If it's not as easy as logging in with Google, people won't switch.
Another major challenge is interoperability. For this vision to work, my digital wallet from one provider needs to be able to seamlessly and securely interact with a service built on a completely different provider's technology. Creating and enforcing those open standards across a global ecosystem is a massive undertaking. So, while we're not quite at the point where you can manage your entire life from a single, simple, secure digital vault, this approach represents the most promising and logical path toward giving users true control over their grounding knowledge in the age of AI.
And what's really powerful about this shift is that it's not just a technical fix for privacy. It fundamentally realigns the economic incentives of the entire digital economy. The current business model of the internet is surveillance capitalism. Companies make money by harvesting and monetizing our personal data, often without our full understanding or consent. This creates a direct financial incentive to collect as much data as possible.
Decentralized identity completely disrupts that model. First, your data is no longer a free resource for companies to scrape. It resides securely in your vault. Second, to access that data to ground an AI, a company now has to come to you and ask for your permission for a specific purpose. This creates a new, more equitable marketplace. Users could potentially charge for access to their data, or at the very least, they can choose services based on which ones offer the best privacy and the most trustworthy terms. The economic incentive for companies shifts from covert data harvesting to building transparent, user-respecting services that people are actually willing to grant access to. It creates a market that rewards good behavior.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We started by defining grounding knowledge, the essential private context that makes a generic AI into a powerful personal tool. We saw how it's revolutionizing fields like medicine and finance. But we also saw the steep price of admission. Sharing your world with an AI in its current form means your data can become a permanent part of the model, a commodity for advertisers, and a target for criminals.
We explored the strange psychology of the conversational AI blind spot, where the illusion of privacy leads us to share our deepest secrets with corporate-owned machines. But we ended on a hopeful note, looking at the rise of personal data vaults and decentralized identity as a powerful technological solution that puts control back in our hands.
And all of this brings us back to you, our listener. In this new age of AI, we all have a new, unspoken job title, whether we want it or not. We are all now conscious data curators. Our most important responsibility in the digital world is to be mindful and intentional about what personal information we share, with whom we share it, and under what terms.
So, what can you do today? First, be skeptical. Treat every interaction with a public AI as if it's being recorded and will be stored forever. Where possible, use privacy-preserving features like temporary chats and actively go into your settings to opt out of having your data used for model training. Second, demand better tools. Support companies and advocate for policies that champion user privacy, data minimization, and true data ownership. The market will respond to consumer demand.
And finally, watch this space. Keep an eye on the development of decentralized identity and personal data vaults. These technologies are still in their early days, but they represent the future of a more equitable and secure digital world. Navigating this AI revolution requires us to be more than just smart consumers of technology. It requires us to become empowered, sovereign individuals who are in control of our own digital lives.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with anyone who needs to think more deeply about the choices we're all about to face. We're all in uncharted waters here, so let's navigate them together.
That's it for us today. I'm Cristian Worthington.
And I'm Sandra Giffin, signing off from the Verlicity AI podcast. Stay curious, stay informed, and most of all, stay grounded.